So welcome everybody. Good to see you and welcome to class number 2. And great to have you back and on board, and hope your first week of practice went really well. We'll review that in a little bit. But just to set this up, we are going to talk today about the body scan and movement and how you can bring mindfulness into the body. It's not always just about sitting, closing your eyes and meditating, but there's lots of ways we can bring mindful awareness into all the various things that we're doing, including movement, to intentionally do that. And of course, stress shows up in the body in various ways. So part of it is being aware of how we are noticing stress wherever it shows up in the body, and then knowing what to do with that. So we'll be talking about all that today. So first, let me also say, we'll move right into it, that I had sent out the perceived stress scale, which is only 4 items, and then also the mindfulness, attention, and awareness scale. And if you haven't done that and you still want to send it in, there's still time to do that. So I do collect, especially the first one, the perceived stress scale, and compile a group average at the beginning, and then we'll do it at the end too. So I think if you still want to send that to me, please do that. And if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to help with that as well. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do, as we often do with the classes, is take a pause. And so just take a moment to just make yourself comfortable, however you're sitting or whatever position you're in. And this will be kind of a mindful minute. So we're just pausing, turning inward. And what I'd like you to do is to focus on how the body feels. So just check in. Now you can close your eyes as you're doing this, or you can keep it open, whatever is best for you. But just feel the body sitting. Just notice the position you're in. Be aware of how things are. What sensations do you notice? How does the body feel? What kind of energy level is there? Is there some tension or discomfort somewhere? Or is there a sense of ease and comfort? Maybe you notice the temperature where you're sitting. Just take a moment to feel into the body, kind of a felt sense of the body sitting and resting. Just check that out for a moment. And while doing this, you might feel the breath. As you're scanning through, the breath shows up in various parts of the body. So maybe intentionally bring your awareness to the breath. Feel the movement of the breath in and out. If you'd like, take a couple of deeper breaths that can help to relax a little bit and settle. And we'll do a little bit more of that later on. But so that's just a quick pause, focusing in on the body. And so hopefully that helped to kind of put aside all the other stuff that you were doing prior to the class. These mindful pauses that we do are kind of here to help us reconnect with the present moment, and especially with the body. And that's what we're going to be talking about today a lot, is getting out of the mind and into the body, and being grounded, but also just being present through the body. As they sometimes say, the body is always present. It's the mind that carries us away. All right, so how's it going? I'm going to, in a minute, again, ask you how your first week of practice was. I'd love to hear how it was going. Were you able to fit in some time to do some of the breathing meditation and also some of the informal practices? So, but before we go into that, I'll just reference this quote from John Kabat-Zinn. If you think of your body as a house, the body scan is a way to throw open all the windows and let the fresh air of awareness sweep it clean. So, just as an intro to today's focus on the body. But yeah, so let me know, what was it like for you? You can either speak up or use the chat. Okay, there's a question. Let me just go back to that for a second. Where can the assessment be found? I sent it out with the original email that once you had registered through LMS, I sent the perceived stress scale and that mindful attention and awareness scale. But I can certainly resend it. I don't have a link. I'm trying to think if I could put it in the chat, but no, it wouldn't work, I don't think. But I'll just resend it with the rest of the stuff, so you'll get that again. And yeah, feel free to send that. So how's it going? And you're welcome. How's it going with, how did it go last week? I'd love to hear. You can either use the chat, or if you'd like to speak up, that's fine too, whichever is easiest for you. But if you recall, the home practice last week was to try to do the breathing meditation on a daily basis, even if it was just a couple of minutes. The full meditation with the link, I think, is about 9 or 10 minutes. And then also the informal practice was to focus on some routine activity and bring mindful awareness to that. So does anybody have any?
Hi, Bud. This is Ellen.
Hi, Ellen.
Hi, how are you guys? So I take a walk every day for an hour, and I was doing my breathing while I was walking, and it really helped. It was really nice.
Good. Excellent. Good to hear that. So, and you do that on a regular basis, daily?
Absolutely.
So that is a wonderful point. If you're already doing something like that and you have already made a habit, they call that kind of habit stacking. So you might integrate, as you were doing, Ellen, with that. So wonderful. Keep that up. And I do that, for example, with some morning stretches that I do. And sometimes I'll play something in the background as a guided meditation to listen to and kind of integrate it together. Sometimes I'll just try to really pace and use that as my practice, which actually we're going to be doing today. Mindful movement stretching can be part of that. So far, both are going well. These classes are a great reminder, yes, to embrace both practices. Good, yeah, and that's why we do these. And by the way, I might have mentioned this, but there are other things like the daily phone meditations that we do, as well as there's a monthly refresher class that actually came out of this original class a few years back. And that monthly refresher, if you don't already know about it, is the second Wednesday of each month from 12:30 to 1:15. And again, you sign up on LMS for that. Just search for mindfulness refresher. That should bring you to that. So let's see, here's another comment. Not as much as I would have liked, but got some formal time, good, as well as a few times I remembered informal practice when stress arises. So that's a great point, that second part of it. That's great because, that's what this class is really all about, is to try to counteract the stress response. So doing whatever practice, whether it's formal or informal, when you notice feeling stress, however you notice it, and to do something to counteract it. So that's great. And so the first point Paul makes about would have liked to, not as much as I would have liked to, and it's hard. I mean, I certainly understand how hard it can be. It doesn't seem like it would be hard, 5-10 minutes a day. Some people in some classes recommend 20 minutes twice a day. That's kind of the other recommendation, or I find that myself even difficult to do. But I've sort of gotten into a regular routine over the years. And so that's the whole point, trying to build up a daily habit. So work on that. Make that intention try some different times, try some different ways to connect it to other activities, whatever it is that reinforces the habit. So great. Any other comments or questions from anybody? I did send last week that log form, so don't know if you tried to use it, but that's one way to kind of keep track. And also I find that it's another way to kind of keep accountable to yourself to do the practice and then jot down a note or two about what it was like for you. And then if there were any questions, or if you just noticed what it was like to do a particular exercise or practice. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Of course, that's all part of being mindful, is noticing our own likes and dislikes, and to try to kind of keep those judgments off to the side in a sense. So try to do the log if you can, and try to keep up. That is part of what we're doing here, is trying to build a practice. And I really do believe, and for myself, and you do have to find it out for your own selves, the more you do integrate it and make it a practice, the more you're going to see that it helps with stress. And in fact, the third class next week, we're going to be focusing in on stress and how our thoughts can enhance our stress, make it worse, but also how we can learn to kind of mindfully be aware of our thoughts and get in control of that. All right, so mini lesson again, bringing the mind and the body together. And that's, again, what we're doing today, connecting the dots between thoughts, feelings, and body sensations, the importance of acceptance and seeing afresh as we learn the body scan. So the body scan will be the main practice that we'll do in a little bit, but I also have a couple of other things to try and things that you can do throughout the week. So this week is a little more varied in some ways. Did want to give you a couple more definitions on mindfulness. Last week I gave you John Kabat-Zinn's, kind of considered a classic definition in the Western world. But here are a couple more. Mindfulness means maintaining a moment-by-moment awareness of our thoughts, feelings, bodily sensations, and surrounding environment. And then also, mindfulness also involves acceptance. This is really key, meaning that we pay attention to our thoughts and feelings without judging them, without believing, for instance, that there's a right or wrong way to think or feel in a given moment. That's hard, but so at least noticing those judgments, noticing the likes and dislikes, noticing the inner commentary, that chatter that's going on. We can't just wipe it away, especially since we have years and years of preconditioned thoughts, for example, but we can notice them and we can sort of realize that we don't have to believe them. We don't have to actually follow them unconditionally. So that's part of I think a good part of the definition. And then that second point, when we practice mindfulness, our thoughts tune into what we're sensing in the present moment, rather than rehashing the past or imagining the future. So more on that next week for sure, because that's a lot of what we're dealing with in the third week. But just as an example for this, when we have particular body sensations, maybe there is an unexplained pain in your stomach or back, or headache pain, or whatever it might be. Sometimes we tend to imagine the future, and we imagine the worst case scenario. Sometimes we say to ourselves, oh my gosh, it's going to turn into, something I'm going to have to see the doctor for, or maybe even go to the hospital for. Maybe I'm going to need surgery for something. And it's really just kind of a minor ache or pain. But our minds do tend to exaggerate, and we also can call that catastrophizing something. So if you have a tendency to do that, and I think we all do from time to time, this is a way to kind of put the reins on it, in a sense, and not let those thoughts carry us away so that we're really ruminating and catastrophizing. We can learn how to stop that in a sense. So especially when there are some things going on in the body that we don't like. And if you think about it, we have opinions about our body in so many different ways, not only the workings of the body, how the body feels, those little pains and aches. And I'm going to read you a good quote on this. Maybe I'll do it now since I'm talking about it. But also on how we don't like how the body is, how it looks, how we've put on those extra few pounds, how we are not able to do some sort of exercise or movement that we could do 5-10 years ago. And so there's all sorts of things that come with aging and come with a variety of different things that are going on in the body that we don't like and we have opinions about. Now, I showed you this last time, this cartoon, and I'm going to just kind of bring it up again as an example of how we can get so much in our head, like the guy on the walk here. And we're like almost, if you think of the body as a house, and we're so often living in the attic, the mind, and we're so often get carried away by all of those thoughts that are going on. So the body practices are a great way to get out of the head and into the body and to be a little bit more like the dog. But what I'd like to do is read you this little excerpt from an essay. I'm not sure who actually wrote it, but the source that I got it from is from Tara Brach, who's a well-known and very highly respected mindfulness instructor, and she does a lot of work with Jack Kornfield. So here's the quote. I am the pain in your head, the knot in your stomach, the unspoken grief in your smile. I am your high blood pressure, your fear of challenge, your lack of trust. I am your hot flashes, your fragile low back, your agitation and fatigue. You tend to disown me, suppress me, ignore me, coddle me, condemn me. You usually want me to go away immediately, to disappear, to slink back into obscurity. Most times than not, I am only the recent notes of a long symphony, the most evident branches of roots that have been challenged for seasons. So I implore you, I am a messenger with good news, as disturbing as I can be at times. I'm wanting to guide you back to those tender places within yourself, the place where you can hold yourself with compassion and honesty. I may ask you to alter your diet, to get more sleep, exercise more regularly, breathe more consciously. I might encourage you to see a vaster reality and worry less about day-to-day fluctuations. I may ask you to explore the bonds and wounds of your relationships. I am your friend, not your enemy. I have no desire to bring pain and suffering into your life. I am simply tugging at your sleeve, too long immune to gentle nudges. You are a being so vast, so complex, with amazing capacities for self-regulation and healing. Let me be one of the harbingers that leads to the mysterious core of your being, where insight and wisdom are naturally available and called upon with a sincere heart. So that end quote. So that's the quote about all these signals that are going on, all these little messages that the body is trying to tell us. All these ways that if we can tune into those and use them in a way that we realize are possibly helpful to us. So that kind of, I think, is a great summary to what we're talking about in today's theme, focusing on the body. Now, before we get into that, just a couple more thoughts about keeping up the practice. So here's 5 tips. This is also from Tara Brach and Jack Kornfield. Number one, practice most days, even for a short period of time. I said that last time. So really try to keep that up. It's the regular daily practice that makes a difference. Two is less willpower, more habit stacking. And the comment we had before about going on a walk, a lot of people do that. So sometimes it might be maybe when you get your morning coffee or tea together, or have your breakfast. Do it before, during, or after that. So in other words, linking it to some other habit that you already have in place. Adopt an attitude of curiosity. Be curious about what you're discovering about yourself. Even if you begin to react with some opinion or judgment about it, be curious about that too. Why? Because we have years and years of these conditioned patterns in what we've been doing. So be curious about that as well. Get comfortable, don't overthink it, and be really kind to yourself. That being kind to yourself is so important. And it really leads us to this next quote. But I did notice a comment come through. Let me just check that. All right, great. Here's a good comment. During my meditation practice, I find my thoughts drifting to other times, but decreased after a few times of saying, okay, this is my time. Good. So, we're going to get a lot more into that whole idea of what's going on in the mind with our thoughts next week. But that's a good point for this week as well, because our mind really does pull us away. And so, again, getting out of the head and into the body and being kind to ourselves, as this quote says, is really important. So, again, from Tara Brach, an attitude of friendliness toward yourself is a key predictor of whether mindfulness will be rewarding or a struggle. To get an idea of how mindfulness will work for you, reflect on how you generally treat yourself when you're anxious or stressed. This opens the door to how you can nurture your attitude of friendliness. So, in other words, she's kind of saying is like when you're anxious or stressed, if that naturally brings up the inner critic and you're saying to yourself, I shouldn't be feeling this way. There I go again. I can't stop this. I'm just so bad at it. I'm just like in other words, you're making it worse by that self-critique. Now that can be changed, and we're actually going to do a whole class on self-compassion too. So stay tuned for that. That's later on. But if you do have that kind of attitude of unfriendliness to yourself, again, note that, and it's a good reminder to say to yourself, I need to be more compassionate with myself. I need to give myself a break. And the more you do that, I think the more you'll be able to succeed, or at least instill this habit of mindfulness and really integrate it into your life. So good part of the lesson. Want to remind you also about these attitudes. I don't know if you got a chance. There's this page. I also have a link at the end. There are these 9 attitudes that John Kabat-Zinn talks about. So check those out when you get a chance. But for today, I'm going to actually put everybody on mute. Unless, is there a question that somebody has? I'm going to mute everybody for now. And if there's a question, you can unmute yourself. But today's attitudes that are important are the beginner's mind. And what that kind of means very simply is that we approach all of these practices, but today the body scan with a beginner's mind. So, we think we know all there is to know about our body and ourselves. Well, all I'm simply asking you to do is when we do the body scan is to bring this attitude of curiosity, of like almost as if, wow, I'm looking at my body and scanning through my body as if for the first time, and just noticing what I'm aware of with this beginner's mind. Patience is key. The body scan can sometimes be, you might find yourself a little restless or impatient. So try to bring some patience and also acceptance. As I mentioned before, sometimes we don't like what we find. Maybe there is a pain in the lower back that's bothering you, or some stomach distress. So, those again are linked to probably our thought patterns as well as some stress. And so we'll begin to link those all together. So those are key attitudes for today's practice. And that brings us to today's practice, which is the body scan. And so what we're going to do is we're going to scan through the body, and part of linking it to stress is that stress often manifests itself in the body, right? So you might notice particular tension or tightness in a part of the body. That's a reaction to that fight or flight response. Or you might notice, I mentioned it a couple times, stomach distress or headaches or something like that. That also might be tied to a stressful experience. So what we're trying to do is be more aware about that. And when we go through the body scan, we are going to go through the body systematically and just bring our awareness to that and bring some kindness to it as well. And we can even bring some relaxation and try to let go of the tension if you like, but really just scanning through and seeing what's there. And there are lots of different ways to do the body scan. This is probably last about 9 minutes or so, maybe 10. And then the body scan can be done laying down. So if you have the opportunity to lay down, you want to try it that way, be my guest. But it's fine to do it sitting in a chair. You can also do it standing up. A body scan can be longer than 10 minutes. It can easily be 20 to 30 minutes. Sometimes you'll find them being quite long, to slowly and very methodically go through the body. But we'll do about 10 minutes. And it can actually be shorter. So just a good example, you can make it an informal practice. Say you're standing in line at a grocery store, and you know how that feeling is. You got in the wrong line. The person in front of you has got some sort of problem with payment or whatever it is, or they have to go do a price check. And you find yourself getting kind of irritable and like, oh, you can't move, you can't go to another line, and you begin that whole thing, bubbles up into the mind. So a quick body scan, feel your feet as you're standing there on the ground. Take a couple of nice deep breaths. Tune into how the body feels. Maybe just shift a little bit as you're standing there. Scan through and just pay attention and notice where you feel that irritation in the body. That's a quick body scan in the moment. So you can try it in that way too. Another good way to do it is in traffic. If you're feeling, stressed out about trying to get somewhere and somebody's in your way, or get behind a school bus or something like that, you can use these kind of techniques for that as well. But for now, let's do a body scan, somewhat of a kind of a traditional body scan. We're going to just follow my instruction. There'll be a little bit of silence, not too much, but we're going to scan through. So first step is to just notice your body sitting. Now I'm going to use the term sitting. If you're laying down or standing, that's fine. So just be aware of that. So before we actually come into stillness, we're going to do a couple of gentle stretches. So already you might have noticed while I've been talking, maybe there is some tension in your shoulders, for example. So maybe doing a couple of slow, easy shoulder rolls forward and then backward. Okay. Maybe you've been sort of hunched over your computer and your screen. So maybe you sort of, lengthen and stretch out your spine a little bit, lifting the crown of your head upwards. or arching your back a little bit, or maybe there's some tightness in the jaw and you can just kind of move the jaw around and stretch it out, release the tension there. So that's a good way to start. So let's just now settle in, let the body come into stillness, let the body settle in. Maybe take a couple of breaths, be aware of your breathing, lengthen the in-breath and the out-breath. As you breathe out, make that long and slow. So you allow your body to give itself up to gravity, allow your body to sink in. You can let your eyes close. If you'd rather keep them open, that's okay. Keep them open with a downward, unfocused gaze. Either way is fine. We're just kind of inviting ourselves to be right here at home in this breathing body. And you might imagine the body as a house and sense with curiosity where you primarily live. Is it in the attic, in the mind? Or is there some strong discomfort drawing your attention to a particular room, maybe the lower back or the belly? Just notice, where do you primarily live? Where's your go-to spot in the body? Kind of just checking in. And what I'm going to do now is we're going to start on the upper part of the body. We're going to start in the face and the head area. So first, just bring your awareness to your head. And just notice the position of your head. And as we go through this, feel free to adjust. So you might change the position if it's more comfortable to maybe shift the position of the head. Just be aware of any feelings around the head and the neck and the jaw and the eyes. Just be aware of any sensations around the temples, around the ears. You might bring your awareness into your mouth and be aware of sensations of the tongue, the inner cheeks, the moisture there. Is your mouth slightly open or is it closed? Just kind of noticing the lips. Be aware of the inside of the ears, for example, that whole inner sinuses and around the ears, the inner ears, that kind of sensing the head from the inside out. Now bringing that awareness down into the neck and the throat. And again, feeling, if you have to swallow, you can sort of feel that in the throat, but you can also let this whole area relax because you don't have to speak now. This is a time to be quiet and rest. You can let the whole vocal cords relax. Let the neck relax. This whole area. But just notice also what you feel in the neck and the throat. And now feeling the shoulders. Let the shoulders drop away from the ears, but sensing into the shoulders. Maybe being aware of the many different movements that the shoulders can make. The flexibility of the shoulders. Just sensing them from the inside out and letting them sort of dissolve, let them kind of melt. And then bringing your awareness all the way down your arms and being aware of the length and the volume of your arms, and being aware of the elbows and the wrists, and then bringing your attention to your hands and sensing all the various sensation in the hands. Maybe some tingling, that sense of aliveness. The fingers, the palms, the thumbs. The hands have a lot of nerve endings, right? So being aware of all those sensations. Now coming back up to the upper torso and the chest, and you can sort of feel around the upper chest area, around the heart area. You can feel the movement of the lungs, and the ribs expand as you breathe. And feel the upper back as well, so the back part of the body, and feel the space between the front and the back. So kind of feeling the inside, where the heart is, where the lungs are, where the belly is, all those internal organs. Scanning down through the torso, feeling the front, let the front of the body be soft. Bring, let all the way down to the front lower part of the torso. And then the back as well, the back, the middle back and the lower back, the pelvic area, the hips. Just scanning through and noticing whatever you notice, whatever sensations are there. You might even allow the breath to move in and out of that area. And then scanning on down, further down into the upper legs, the thighs, pretty large part of your body, the full thighs, the volume, what feelings, what sensations are here, the knees. The knees maybe in the same way as we did with the shoulders, perhaps sensing into the various parts of the knees, the kneecaps, the flexibility, the movement that the knees can bring you. And then scanning further on down into the lower legs and the shins and the calves and the muscles there. And then all the way down into the feet. You might stop at the ankles, be aware of the ankles, being aware of the feet, being aware of what the feet are touching. If they're flat on the ground, noticing that sense of touch. Being aware, again, like we did with the hands, the various sensations in the toes and the bottom of the feet, the balls of the feet, the heels, tops of the feet. You might even isolate the big toe on each foot and be aware of the big toes, and then moving down through see if you can sense each toe. And now opening up your awareness, we've kind of been zooming into these very specific parts of the body. Now zoom out and be aware of the whole body all at once. So you expand your awareness, sense the whole body, sitting or standing, whatever position you're in. Be aware of the whole body. So you might kind of be aware of the skin covering the whole body. And what sensations do you feel on the skin? Maybe it's wherever if your hands are uncovered, or if there's any open skin And the face and the neck, what do you feel there? What do you feel? The clothes touching skin, the skin of the whole body, just being aware of the whole body at once, the whole body breathing, being aware of the space around the body, in front of you, to the sides of you, behind you, above you, below you. Being aware perhaps of things in the area. Maybe there's people somewhere around you or nearby, just being aware, sort of expanding your awareness outwards. And then come back specifically into the body, feel the body breathing, and allow the body to relax if you like, or if you notice, just notice what is calling your attention now in the body. Maybe there's something that you notice, and just being aware of what that might be. If it's tense or tight, maybe there's a little bit of something somewhere. You can breathe into that. Let the energy of the breath flow into that part of the body. And then as you breathe out, let that tension and tightness drain away. Okay, good. And so for the final moments of the practice, bring your attention back to the anchor of your breath, or some area that your sensations are easy to feel, maybe your hands or feet, or combining the breath with the feeling of your hands. Just let that be your anchor for a moment as we begin to come to a close, and just rest in the sensations of your home base with a calm, easy presence. When you're ready, as we close, you can begin to open the eyes. You can begin to move a little bit. You can maybe again stretch a little bit, move the fingers or the feet, whatever is helpful to the body as we finish that meditation for today's lesson. And notice what that feels like right now before we kind of move on into thinking and doing and listening and all that stuff. Just notice what this quality of awareness is like for you after doing the body scan. And please note, there's no right or wrong way you should feel. Okay, so maybe you feel relaxed, maybe you don't. Maybe you did, like I said before, maybe you felt a little restless, a little impatience, a little discomfort, whatever it was. Whatever you felt is okay. Remember, we're trying to be more aware of what's happening now for us. Okay, so what was that experience like for you? I'd love to hear. Again, you can put into the chat or you can speak up if you'd like, but what was that body scan like for you? Did you almost fall asleep? Sometimes people almost fall asleep, especially if you're a little sleep deprived, which many of us are. Or was your mind really active? Sometimes that happens too. And it's hard to settle into the body. Sometimes it takes a little bit of practice. What did you notice? All right, good, thank you. I was a bit restless, but at the same time, I realized the value of this gift of this body. Great. Great comment. I like that. Yeah, and sometimes we take the body for granted and we don't appreciate what it does for us. There are whole meditations on what the hands do for us, what the legs do for us, be able to, if you're able to move, what that can do for us, or what the mouth, or the ears or the eyes, or, all those different functions. There are meditations on the five senses, even the six, you can consider 6 or 7 senses. So the five traditional senses, then you could also include the sense of the inside of the body, which we did touch into a little bit. And sometimes the mind and thoughts and mental activity is considered a sense. So, yeah, what do we appreciate by that? Very relaxing, but notice some areas that I need to work on regarding the body and where I'm holding stress. So good. That's really the point too, is to be aware of that. And the more we're tuned into that, we can then notice it as we're going about our business. It's a little bit easier when we're sitting doing nothing and we're focused in on that. That's why we practice. So when you're out and about, then you're more aware or able to be aware of what you notice. I realize more tension in my shoulders and upper back. Yeah, I mean, those are common areas where many of us feel tension and where we just sort of like accept it. I did say accept it as we go through, but you know what I'm saying? It's like it's there. We don't realize it's there. And we kind of, this is bringing awareness to this so that we can, if we want, do something to release some of that tension and let it go and just bring that sense of relaxed attentiveness to the body. So thank you for those comments. Excellent. All right, so other things you can try. We did this a little bit at the beginning, but as I'm talking and you want to try a little cat stretches, you might do that. So anytime you do stretching, a couple of things, obviously, be careful if you have a particular sensitivity or painful area or something like that. Don't stretch that or stretch it very gently, very lightly. So pay attention to what your body needs. I would say also to stretch a little more slowly than we usually do so that you can pay more attention and really bring that mindful awareness to what that stretching of that area is like. So if you're stretching out, doing some head rolls, for example. See, even now I'm doing them too fast. So just slow down. What does it feel like as we stretch out the neck? Just are looking from side to side, stretching slowly what flexibility or inflexibility we might have. So just, really paying attention. I'm going to give you some suggestions later on in a couple of slides. We're kind of getting close to the end. But so there's lots of things that you can do here. These are some creative ways to get moving. The stair challenge, so going up and down stairs and just either walking, running, or slowly moving up and down a flight of stairs. Skipping to music, dancing. I didn't put that on here, but dancing could be one. Power cleaning, when you're cleaning your house, that's a great informal practice. That's as you're moving, as you're cleaning. During TV time, maybe getting up and stretching or doing some mindful movement. Great time to do that. This is one of my favorites, and this is one that I think is very, very helpful. And there is actually a link to this on the meditation page, but very simply what it comes down to is paying attention to your walking while you're walking. And when your mind travels and wanders off to the next meeting, to the things you got to do, to what you're having for dinner, all those things, the automatic pilot kicks in. Just bring your attention back to what it feels like to walk, the movement of your feet and legs, the touching and lifting and placement, the contact your feet make with the ground, the movement of your arms, if you're walking outside, the sun on your face, the breeze on your face, all those, using the senses as we do that. Great way to center and ground yourself while you're walking. And so that is definitely one that you can try. There's going to be a connection to, this is a little bit more of a stretching exercise led by Kara Bradley. And so that's a little bit more of stretching out the spine. And then there's one on 10 mindful movements with Thich Nhat Hanh. And then there's a couple on gentle yoga, which can also be done in a chair or on a floor mat. Maybe some of you already do some yoga, but there's some very simple, and those are all little videos that you can watch. Then again, mindful eating is a great way to pay attention to all the sensations of eating and really savoring it. There's a couple of links here. Again, you might want to try the chocolate exercise or the raisin exercise. So either one of those. So your daily practices are your formal practice is the body scan and or mindful movement. Do both if you can. Again, so much of the time we spend in our heads, thinking, analyzing, all of that. So coming into the body, being aware of all that's going on, observing the body, its sensations, being aware of it a little bit from a step back so that you're more of the observer as we're doing these. Instead of trying to fix things automatically, trying to accept things as it is. A couple more chats. Okay, so we got to drop off. That's fine. Understandable. No problem. Have to jump to. Yep, good. So you'll get the slides again for those of you who have to move on. I realize we're at the 50-minute time, so just about done anyways. So the informal practice, this is a little different. Informal practice, become aware of how you process pleasant events. This is kind of an interesting one. So just notice even simple little things, for example, noticing the sun on your face or someone smiling at you. And as if you can, just jot those things down on that log. I'll send you a new log. The last couple of slides have all the links. These take you to all those practices and then the videos as well. So easy to find to do the daily practices. There are some additional readings if you have time. I think the practices, again, are more important, but there's some additional reading that can be helpful. And finally, the last quote for today's class, we need to remember that where we are going is here, that any practice is simply a means to open our heart to what is in front of us. Where we already are is the path and the goal. So that's by Jack Kornfield. So with that, I'll say thank you very much for joining me today. I'm going to stop the recording in a minute. If you have any questions, I'll hang for a couple of minutes, but thank you so much. And hope you have a good week trying out these practices.
Thank you.